All right, well, good afternoon. I hope everybody's enjoying themselves. Again, my name is Glen Brown. I'm the affiliate support manager at TaxSlayer Pro. I've been with the company about 8 or 9 years now. I wear many hats at TaxSlayer. My primary responsibility is relationships with our largest customers. But like I said, I do several other things, teaching, training amongst them. I work with our developers and our sales team to shape where the program is headed to meet the needs of our customers. So I love the seminar every week. It's an awful time of the year for me to be out of the office because we're ramping up, we're getting ready to deliver software, tax season's pretty much in full swing. But I love being here. I love the interaction with you folks, and I like showing you the new and exciting things. I like scaring you about security a little bit, but we have Kyle Schneider, one of our salesmen here as well, so hide your wallets. He's a salesman, so he'll get your credit card by any means possible. So, but now we're happy to have you all. I have yet to get through a PowerPoint, and this is a big class, but that's okay. A lot of what we're going to talk about today is a regurgitation and more in-depth conversation about the things I spoke about in the General Assembly. Security, stable office, hardware, these are things that we understand and know to be imperative to a successful tax season, so we don't mind repeating them year after year or time after time. So, and as much as I like hearing myself talk, you'll get more out of this if there's interaction. So please interrupt me with your questions, your concerns. If there's something else, if there's something you don't understand, something you want to talk about a little more, by all means, speak up. With that being said, we're going to talk about tips for a successful season. We're going to talk about investing in equipment, connection speed, computer security, ransomware. This is a big one. Safeguarding taxpayer data, and multi-factor authentication. How many remember that from yesterday? Everybody excited about MFA coming to TaxSlayer this year? All right, half of you are lying. All right, it's not exciting, but it's necessary. It's going to keep us safe. That's the exciting part, okay? What we like to call the necessary evil of security and protection. Oops. The importance of backing up, early setup, and ways we can help you. We're going to start off, we're going to talk again, and I know you've heard me say it before. Single most important investment you can make as an owner of a tax practice is current hardware. We have a small window to make all the money we're going to make in a year, right? Those of you who don't have other businesses, if tax is your primary source of income, we make all of our money in a relatively short period of time. So current hardware can make or break that. I'm talking mainly about computers and printers, but also scanners, all the other hardware you have. Yes, they're expensive, but lost revenue, it doesn't compare. One person walking out the door you can lose more than you would have had to pay for a brand new computer that would keep you working fast. Create a plan. Recommend a 3 to 4 year replacement rotation. For most of us, given the size of most of our tax offices, I would say 25% of your equipment every year is sufficient to keep you up to date. Okay? If you make a plan and you stick to it, you budget to replace 25% of your hardware. Now, I'm not only talking about computers, I'm talking about the printers as well. At TaxSlayer, in our corporate offices, when we match a printer to a computer, more often than not, the printer was more expensive than the computer. Okay? We beat our printers up during tax season, don't we? I mean, we run them hard, we run them long, right? Unless you're using a paperless office, we beat them up pretty good. So they need to be able to keep up with the computers that we have. And too often they're overlooked. So if you replace 25% a year, you'll never have one more older than 4 years. You'll always be current. You'll spread the cost out. If you're not budgeting that into your operating budget, I would encourage you to do so. Start this year, do what you can. and from then on, have a 3 to 4 year plan. So we're going to talk about recommended system requirements. I'm going to elaborate on a couple of these. Intel i5 processor or higher. Intel several years ago changed their naming convention. Everybody remember the Pentium and the Pentium 2 and the Pentium 3? Several years ago, Intel changed their naming convention to the I series. They have i3, i5, i7, and they've just recently come out with i9. Extremely expensive still, but i9 is out and available if you so choose. So what I want to point out, though, is that just because you have an i5 processor or an i7 processor doesn't mean you have the latest and greatest. Currently, and a lot of people are surprised to learn this, currently Intel is on the 8th generation of i processors. So you can have an i5 processor or an i7 processor that's a 2nd generation, that's 6 or 8 years old, that probably needs to be replaced, or you can have an i5 or an i7 processor that is a current generation and is state of the art right now. That being said, it's pretty simple to recognize what you have. How do I know which generation mine is? The i5, i7, i3s, they all have a suffix. It's i5 dash, generally speaking, it's 4 numbers, and it may or may not have a letter at the end of it. So, for instance, an i5-2500, the first digit of that number is going to be the generation of that processor. So an i5-2500 is going to be a 2nd generation processor. So that's going to be one that's fairly old and maybe not capable of keeping up anymore. Whereas if my processor is an i7-7700, that's going to be a 7th generation processor, and that's going to be one of the newest. So part of the, it kind of fools you a little bit. Okay, I've got an i5 processor, but it still could be 10 years old. I would recommend if you're replacing hardware and you're buying new computers, I would like to see one of the 8th generation of processors was just released a couple months ago. I would recommend getting 6th, 7th, 8th. One of the last 2 or 3 generations is probably going to be what you want to buy if you're looking to buy hardware. What you definitely want to stay away from are Celeron processors. Intel Celeron, spelled with a C, C-E-R-L-E-R-O-N, Celeron. They are not full. It's like putting a 3-cylinder engine in a Suburban. Okay, it just doesn't have the horsepower to keep up. Likewise, AMD processors, they have several different naming conventions, but AMD 100s and AMD 200s, I would stay away from those. They're likewise less powerful processors. The most recent AMD processors, they have a completely different naming convention, but the most recent ones are called Ryzen, R-Y-Z, Ryzen. They're exceptional. I'm an Intel guy myself, but I bought my daughter a laptop with an AMD Ryzen processor in it not too long ago. So, but the point is, know what you're buying, okay? And if you want to find out what you have, you can go right-click on your Start button and go to System. Open up those system properties, and it'll tell you exactly which processor you have. It'll say i5-4229. Okay? The first digit is going to tell you what generation you have. That's pretty important. What you don't want to do is buy the $200 laptop on the front page of the Walmart Black Friday ad. All right? That's not going to, I can tell you right now, I don't know which one's going to be on there, but there's always one, the Best Buy, the Walmart, the front page, or the back page has that $200, $220 laptop. I can tell you right now, it's going to be a processor that's several generations old, or a Celeron processor, and it's not going to do what you need it to do, or what TaxSlayer needs it to do. So And like always, if you have questions, call us. If you find an ad, Black Friday is a great day to buy computers. I would encourage you, if you're looking to invest in computers, look at the Black Friday ads, but know what you're buying. Okay? And if you don't know or you're unsure in any way, call us and we'll be happy to help you. Hey, Glenn, I'm looking at Best Buy's ad. I'm on page 42 at the top. What do you think about that computer? And we'll be happy to tell you. Our Tier 2 techs will always be happy to help you do that. Any questions? We will not be open 2 o'clock in the morning, but if you come see me afterwards, I'll give you Kyle's cell phone, and you can call him any time of the day or night. Or if somebody's building a computer for you, if you have an IT guy and he says, yeah, I'll build you a computer, call us, tell him, give me the specs in writing, I want to take a look at them. Call us. Send us the specs, email them to us, read them to us over the phone. We'll be happy to tell you. Yeah, that's perfect. Wow, that's a whole lot of power. You might not need that much. Or, you know, I'm a glutton. I build my own computers, so I have latest, greatest, top of the line. So don't ask me, but the other guys, they'll give you an honest answer. Yes, sir.
When we get a new computer, do y'all still, if we call in, just monitor,
migrate it? Absolutely. Question was, if we get a new computer, if you buy a new computer, will we help you migrate TaxSlayer from the old one to the new one? And the answer is absolutely. In fact, we would prefer it that way. Okay? Because if you call us tomorrow and say, hey, I got a new computer, I need a migration. Now, it's going to take us a couple hours, depending on how many years of TaxSlayer you have. It's going to take us some time, so it's not something that, don't call us at 4:30 and expect us to do it that day when we close at 5. But we'll usually set up an appointment. It's something that, again, it depends on what you have and how much data you have to move, but it can take a couple hours. But we would prefer that you call us and let us help you with it, because it's much easier for us to do it, make sure it's done right today, than have to fix, now pardon me, but to have to fix what you did wrong January 15th. When neither you nor we have the time to do that, right? Call us. We are more than happy to help you. We will set an appointment and we will help you move from old to new. What we need you to do is buy the right computer and we'll help you pick it out, take it out of the box, set it up, install all of the Windows updates that are available. Because normally when you take a computer out of the box, if any of you have bought one recently, you know there's a lot of updates and they come in waves. Take it out of the box, you set everything up, all right, there's updates. There's 20 updates now. You get those, and then there's another 20 after that. Then there may be 30 after that. And when you have it completely updated, we don't want to take the time to sit on the phone with you through all these updates. It's something that you can do, but after that, we will migrate from old to new. Just make sure we have access to the old computer and the new computer, and we'll help you do that. Great question. Any other questions about that?
I have a question.
Yes.
Hard disk, that's the same thing as hard drive, right?
Correct. Correct. All right. So we want a processor if we're buying a new computer that's one of, yes, sir.
For a backup system, what would you get? Another terminal or external hard drive?
To back up TaxSlayer, I would recommend a flash drive. You can get a flash drive that'll hold 20 years of TaxSlayer for $20 or less. We recommend you buy one for every day, especially during tax season. Buy 7. Get a Monday flash drive, a Tuesday flash drive, a Wednesday flash drive. And the utility in TaxSlayer, the built-in backup utility, will back up every year of TaxSlayer all the way back to 2006. And we would recommend you do that every day during tax season. In the off season, it depends on what kind of work you do, how often you're in TaxSlayer, what kind of volume you do. If you're working every day and doing taxes every day in the off season, well then you should probably still back up every day. If you close your office down at the end of tax season and don't come back till the following year, then there's no need to back up if you're not using the software. Operating systems. This is another thing we need to spend some time talking about. Windows 10. Just like Intel has changed the naming convention of their processors, where they have first generation i7, second generation, and so forth, Windows has, with the introduction of Windows 10, has decided to take the approach similar to what Apple does. So instead of saying Windows 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, we're going to see Windows 10 for a while. It's not going to be Windows 11 next year and Windows 12 the year after that. So a couple things about that. One, the good news is we don't have to reinstall a whole nother operating system to upgrade anymore, because they're going to upgrade the operating system through the update screen, through the update utility, the Windows updates. So to have the latest and greatest operating system, all you have to do is have Windows 10 and keep it updated. Okay? The downside is you could have a pretty old version of Windows 10 that's not quite as stable and secure as the current version and not even realize it. Okay? So Windows 10's been out for a couple years now. And if you haven't kept up to date, they release what they call an anniversary update every year. And it usually comes out about September and October. And so that is in lieu of a new operating system with a new name. They just release a new update, an anniversary update for it. So to find out which version of Windows 10 you're running, you would go to Settings, System, and About. Say that again. You would go to Settings, and you can get to Settings from the Start menu, then System, and then About. And on that page, it's going to have a version. Your version might be something like 1511, 1603. The most current version of Windows 10, I can tell you, is 1709. It's important to keep Windows 10 fully updated. Yes, sir. I'm sorry? Sure. It's Settings, then System, and then About. About. Like you're about to fall asleep. Settings, System, About. And the current version is 1709. And this, you'll know when you've gotten one of these major updates, because the next time you log in, you'll get that Welcome to Windows screen like you've just taken it out of the box. We're setting things up. This may take a few minutes. We've all seen those screens the first time you turn a computer on. When you get one of these major updates, you'll see that after the update's finished, and they make you restart the computer. The other thing I wanted to mention is Windows 7. We ran some stats recently, looked up some stats. It turns out that there are, worldwide, probably 40% of the computers are still running Windows 7. Here's the problem. Luckily, TaxSlayer users' percentages are well below that. Windows 7 is inherently more vulnerable to hacks than the current version of Windows 10. If you're still running Windows 7, I would strongly urge you to upgrade before tax season, if at all possible, this year. In the not too distant future, Microsoft is going to stop releasing security updates for Windows 7. When that happens, the threat increases exponentially. Because of that, this will be the last tax season that TaxSlayer supports Windows 7. Now, does that mean next year if you call and still have a Windows 7 machine, we're going to hang up the phone? Of course not. Of course not. But if we're troubleshooting issues for you and we determine that the issues are related to your operating system, that's what I'm talking about. That's when support will end. But I strongly urge you, if you haven't already, moved on from Windows 7, do it now, if at all possible. It is much more vulnerable than the current versions of Windows 10, just because of the architecture that was used to create it and the advancement in the cyber criminal world. It's unfortunate, but it is absolutely necessary these days to keep up from a security standpoint. We now, for the last several years, we've had an entire department, an entire division of TaxSlayer that's devoted to our security and yours. So, any questions about that? All right. That may come as a shock to some of you, but it's important. So 8 gigabytes of RAM is what we recommend. I probably would, if I was buying a computer today, I'd probably want at least 16 gigabytes. RAM is something that's inexpensive to bump up from a price point, but will increase performance. It's good bang for your buck, so to speak. Just about anything you buy today is going to have a hard drive that large or higher, unless you're getting a solid state drive. Does anybody know what a solid state drive is? Everybody know what a solid state drive is? No? All right. Basically, the traditional hard drives that we're used to are referred to as mechanical drives. And they work on a series of disks on a spindle, kind of like an old record, an old LP. There's layers of disks that sit on a spindle, and they spin at a certain RPM. Oftentimes you'll see this is a 7,200 RPM hard drive, or this is a 5,400 RPM hard drive, talking about the spinning disks. And these disks store the magnetic data, store your data, and there's actually an arm, a mechanical arm that travels around the disks and reads the data off the disk. That's your traditional mechanical hard drive. That's what most of us have in our computers these days. A solid state drive has no moving parts, zero. It is storage on digital chips, okay? The flash drive that we use, they're technically solid state drives. It's just data stored on chips, okay? So you say, what's the advantage? Speed. Oh boy, are they fast. They are blazing fast compared to mechanical drives. Last year, I built myself a new computer at home. I put a high-end solid-state drive in it, and I cold boot in 30 seconds. Completely powered down, push the power button, I am fully loaded desktop ready to roll in 30 seconds, sometimes less. They are wonderful. They are blazing fast. The downside, they cost more right now. Okay? Prices are starting to come down on them, like with all technology. Very expensive when it first comes out, slowly comes back to earth. You can probably get a 1 terabyte mechanical hard drive, very good one, for $75 to $100, maybe 80 bucks, maybe 50 if you find a good deal. A 1 terabyte solid state drive is probably going to cost you between $250 and $300. So you're going to pay for them, but if you can afford it, get it. I'm telling you, it will change your life. It may be a little exaggeration, but not much. Yeah, and the reliability is absolutely, there's nothing mechanical to break. Now, one of the downsides is the life of it. They're not designed like mechanical drives to last 20 years. But they'll have ratings on them. Now, I'm not talking about months. I'm talking about 5 to 7 years. You can expect them to last that long. It's another reason that backing up is key. But they are so fast. And in our business, speed, time is money. So if you can afford a solid state drive, I would absolutely. Now, oftentimes you'll use a combination of both. Our computers at TaxSlayer will all have 2 hard drives in them. They'll have a smaller solid state drive for the operating system, the TaxSlayer software, maybe Office, Adobe, and other key software packages that we need on our work computers. And then we'll have a larger mechanical drive as a second hard drive to store data, documents, pictures, so forth, scan documents.
If you use mirror drive, will you mirror the mechanical or the solid state?
If you're talking about a RAID system,
Yes, sir.
they're generally, in a RAID system, it would be one or the other. You can have a backup. I would RAID the operating system drive and where your software is going to be.
Okay.
Yeah. You can RAID both of them if you want, but that can get pretty expensive. Good question. Now, any other questions so far? All right, you guys are awful quiet. I think I am putting you to sleep. All right, hard drives. Solid state if you can afford it. It'll absolutely improve. Network configuration. TaxSlayer Pro, we design it to be simple and flexible. A basic peer-to-peer network is all you need. Unless you're running more than 10 workstations, you do not need a server operating system. Okay? A Windows 10 professional version of Windows 10 is all you need. You do not need Windows Server 2012 or Windows Server 2008. All you need is Windows 10. Now, if you're running 10, 20, 30 workstations in your office, if you have a larger office, then yeah, you're probably going to need a server operating system. But for the most of us, a simple peer-to-peer network will do. Oftentimes, IT professionals, I like to equate IT professionals to mechanics. Okay? I can set up your network all day long, but I'm not going to be able to do the brakes on your car. Okay? I don't even change my own oil. I go to Jiffy Lube. Okay? But when I need a mechanic, I need one I can trust. Okay? Because the guy I take it to, if he tells me my flux capacitor is gone and it's going to be $1,500 to replace it, I don't know that from a wheel as far as what he's talking about, so I'm not going to be able to tell if he's telling me the truth or if he's just taking me for a ride. IT people, unfortunately, are much the same way. The good ones are worth their weight in gold. But there are some shysters out there that will just try and sell you more than what you need. And a lot of times that starts with a server operating system. Oh, you need a server. It's much better. Well, a server operating system, particularly, say, Windows Server 2012, it's going to have about 500 additional security configuration items compared to Windows 10. And if you don't know what you're doing, and if you don't know how to configure them properly, you can be in a world of hurt, but what they're counting on is you're going to need them. You're going to need the IT guy to do it for you. And what's that going to do? It's going to cost you money every time you call them, right? Or you're going to have to buy a service contract for them. So oftentimes they're trying to sell you something you don't need so they can keep the gravy train rolling. So we'll help you with this too. If your IT guy is trying to sell you something or convince you to do something that you're not sure is in your best interest, call us. We'll talk to him. We'll talk to your IT guy if you want us to. We'll let you know if he's trying to sell you something you don't need. Now, oftentimes you may need more than TaxSlayer needs for one of your other businesses. If any of you are, sell insurance or do something else, alternate finance companies and so forth, you may have need for a server on that side that you don't have TaxSlayer. So I'm not saying it's never a necessity, but for the most part, unless you're of a scale that requires it, you do not need a server operating system to run TaxSlayer. But if you're going to put us on the phone with your IT guy, okay, please let us know if it's your brother-in-law or something so we don't offend. All right? We've had cases where we come back and say, I'm sorry, Mrs. Jones, that guy had no idea what he was talking about. You need to dump him and get somebody else. He's like, well, he's my brother. Can't fire him, so then, everybody's embarrassed at that point. But we'll help you if you need it. Thin clients, terminal services, that's a no-no. Not for TaxSlayer desktop. Anybody in here use ProWeb, our ProWeb product, cloud-based product? No? Okay. So unless you're using ProWeb, no thin clients, terminal services. And simply put, terminal services or thin clients are where I'm going to have X number of dummy terminals that are all running off of one actual smart computer. And the reason, there's one simple reason that we don't design TaxSlayer to do this, and it's because if that computer crashes, you're out of business till you fix it. These are all just dummy terminals here. So if that motherboard dies on a Friday afternoon and your IT guy can't get the part to replace it till Tuesday afternoon, you're out of business till Tuesday afternoon. In a simple peer-to-peer network, we have all smart computers. That my transmitting computer dies, I just one my transmitting computer and I keep working. Okay? And we all know during tax season how important that is. ProWeb is our cloud-based software. It's a completely cloud-based software. If you are portable at all, more and more people these days are doing taxes off-site, outside of their office, especially when comes to millennials. Any millennials in here? I don't see any. My kids are millennials, and you know they're not going to sit in a tax office for 2 hours. So we have more and more people doing taxes off-site. I had a guy this morning in the first period say, I like to take my laptop to my church and do taxes for people at church sometimes. And we have people that'll say, have an arrangement with a company. I'll come and do all your employees' taxes for a reduced rate, and I'll come to the company and set up an office in your company for a couple days and do taxes. If that's something you're doing or thinking about doing, ProWeb might be a good fit for you. It's very portable. It works on anything with an internet connection. What we do not have yet in ProWeb is a business package. So if you do corporate returns, partnerships, 1120s, 1065, 990s, 1041s, then you need to stick to the desktop software. But if you're doing individual returns and you want portability, you want to work on a Mac, you want to take your computer out of the office, you want to do taxes on your cell phone, ProWeb will do all that. We have a class about ProWeb today, so if anybody's interested in it, I'm sure they wouldn't mind you sneaking in there the last period to hear about it. Or talk to your salesperson, they'll give you a demo of it. It's pretty cool. Again, we've talked about this ad nauseum, but it's too important to overlook, and you should be on a 3 to 4 year turnaround time. Every year we try and make the program a little better. Every year we try and put a little more into the program, make your life a little easier, allow you to sell more ancillary products, allow you to grow the bottom line, allow you to keep revenues rising. The cost of that is a more complex piece of software every year. So if we're adding more power, more horsepower to the software, it makes sense that your computer has to keep up with that. And this is one of the reasons that it's imperative to keep up-to-date hardware. Some of the do's and don'ts about new equipment. Contact us, like I've said a couple times already. If you're looking at something, you want a second opinion, you're not sure if it's something that's going to fit your needs, call us. We'll help you decide. If you have other proprietary software in your business, if you sell insurance, or if you are a finance company and you have other software packages for other companies that you do business with, by all means, you need to contact them and determine what their hardware requirements are, because they may or may not be the same as ours. They can be vastly different from one to the next. And something a lot of people overlook too. When I'm buying a computer today, I shouldn't consider where my business is now. I want to determine where I want to be in 3 or 4 years, and that's what I want to determine what I spend my money on. Where am I going to be the next 3 years? Where am I going to be in 4 or 5 years? Keep that in mind when you're trying to decide what you need or want as far as hardware goes. And like always, determine your budget. And check compatibility for your older equipment. We oftentimes run into people who buy a brand new Ferrari of a computer, but they still have their old Yugo of a printer that they attach to it. All right? I can buy a Ferrari all day, but if I have to trail a U-Haul behind it, it's still not going to corner like I want it to, is it? All right? So consider the entire picture when you're upgrading hardware. You may decide that rather than upgrade 2 computers this year, you're going to upgrade 1 computer and the printer, and next year do the computer and the printer together as well. I think I mentioned this earlier. At TaxSlayer, in our corporate offices, when we marry a computer to a printer, the printer is usually the more expensive of the two pieces of hardware. We use them, we abuse them during tax season. We need the ones that are going to be rated for what we do with them. Okay? And if you're going to buy a cheap computer, I would encourage you to buy two. One to use and one on the shelf in the back for when this one breaks. Because they will. If you're going to buy an $80 LaserJet printer, buy two. Keep one on standby. I'm dead serious about that too. And we want LaserJet printers, right? No inkjets. Okay? Two reasons. The most important reason we want LaserJets is they are much, much, much less expensive to operate. Much cheaper to operate. Okay? Now you look at the toner cartridges and you say, what, $80 to $100 for toner cartridges? That seems like a lot of money. But that thing's going to last forever compared to the ink that you're going to buy for inkjets. And the second reason is if you're offering bank products and you're printing checks, laser printer, checks printed with LaserJets can't be altered like inkjets can. Okay, they're burning into the paper when you're printing with LaserJets. Inkjets are just printing ink onto paper, and the fraudsters that are experienced enough can remove that ink and replace it with whatever they like. So, laser printers all around. Some of the don'ts. Don't ask the guy at the store what you need. Chances are he's 12 and he's going to sell you whatever he makes the most money off of, right? Ask us, don't ask him. And again, like I said earlier, don't look for the lowest price. Don't call me saying, hey, I got the front cover on Best Buy. I found this $200 computer. Well, of course you did. Well, you know what you got? You got a $200 computer. We've got to look forward. Remember, technology's changing all the time. We've got to keep looking forward. There's certain features that will help you compared to their price. RAM's one of them. Buy as much RAM as you can possibly afford. The boost that you get in performance compared to the price from doubling the RAM in a certain computer is well worth the investment normally. At a minimum, your computers need to have adequate surge protection. And I would recommend, at a minimum, at least your transmitting computer has a UPS, or an UPS, as many like to refer to them as. These are battery backup and surge protection. Okay, you can get one for, give or take, $50 if you're a shrewd shopper. And what that does, that doesn't give you battery power to run the computer for any length of time. What it does, what the battery backup does, is in the event of a power failure, it gives you enough time to shut the computer down properly so you don't have corruption in your data. Let me say that again. A UPS battery backup is not designed to run your business off the battery backup. It's not designed to run your business while the power's out. It's designed to give you enough time to shut the computer down without any data corruption. The most important part of this is the surge protection. Okay? The $4 power strip you bought at Walmart is not a surge protector. Okay? All it is an extension cord with multiple plugs. So probably even more dangerous than a single extension cord. Every computer in your office should have surge protection. And it's pretty simple to tell which is and which isn't, because if it has surge protection, it'll have a measurement in joules on the package. This surge protector is rated at 20,000 joules, at 50,000 joules. It's a measure of electricity. If it doesn't have that on it, chances are it's one of those $4 power strips. That's not going to give you the protection you need. So you're talking about the difference between $4 and $15 or $20. Another great Black Friday item. Anybody have any questions about that? Every computer that you plug in should have surge protection. At a minimum, the transmitting computer, I would say, should have a UPS on it. At TaxSlayer, we don't plug a computer in unless it's plugged into an UPS. Some FAQs, biggest considerations. Again, I've said this before, processor speed, you can't change the processor. You buy a computer with a Celeron processor, you are stuck with a Celeron processor in that computer, period, for life. Okay? Especially if you're buying a laptop. Sometimes desktops can be changed, but it's not something you want to do unless you're proficient at it. It's like, I'm not a mechanic, but I'm going to try and replace the engine in my car. You don't want to do that. I had a friend once try and do brakes for another friend, and he put them on backwards. Actually put them on backwards. He drove around for a couple days and said, Steve, this is making this terrible noise every time. He's like, oh, they're just breaking in. Took it to the mechanic, they were on backwards. Processor speed is not something you want to change. RAM, something you can upgrade in a desktop easily. Sometimes you can in a laptop, sometimes you can't. The thing about a laptop is, too, a laptop generally has 2 memory slots. And more often than not, when you buy a computer, both are used. So if you're buying a laptop, one of the questions you should ask is how many of the memory slots are being used by the RAM. So if I buy a laptop with 8 gigabytes of memory, does that computer have one 8 gigabyte chip in it, or does it have 2 4s? If it has 2 4s and I decide I want to upgrade, I've got to remove the memory in there and buy entirely new memory. If I buy a laptop with 8 gigabytes of memory that comes in one 8 gigabyte chip, all I have to do is buy a second 8 gigabyte chip, plug it into the empty slot, and now I've doubled my RAM for less money than it would have cost otherwise. Desktops are a little more flexible with memory. Some of the laptops, you can flip it over, take a couple screws out, and the memory banks are right there. Some of the newer, really thin, really light laptops, they're not designed like that. Okay? Charles has a screamer of laptops sitting right in front of him there. His laptop, I'm sure, is not designed for the memory to be upgradable. New, light, thin. Now, they can be done, but you need to know what you're doing. And they'll tell you in the specs, that usually they'll say maximum memory, and it'll say not user upgradable quite often. So if that's something that's important to you. But the point being, buy as much RAM as you can afford from the get-go. Same thing with hard drives. Somebody asked me earlier when we started talking about solid-state drives. He said, can I replace the drives in my current computer with solid-state drives? Absolutely you can. Absolutely. All of my personal computers I've replaced. The ones I didn't buy with solid-state drives, I've replaced with solid-state drives. Now, some of them are easier than others. Desktops, pretty simple to replace the hard drive with a solid state. Laptops, it depends on how they were designed. Some of these newer thin laptops, for instance, this Surface Pro that I'm using today, not real easy for me to upgrade the hard drive size on that. But some of the laptops, you flip them over and look at the bottom of them. If they've got a number of panels on them that come off with a couple screws, then they're easily upgradable. You take the little plate off, the hard drive's right there. You pull it out, put the new one in, you're done. Okay, if you're going to buy a solid-state drive, look for one that comes with cloning software. Or if you're going to upgrade your drive at all in your computer. Some of them come with, many of them will come with software to clone the old hard drive to the new hard drive. This way, when you're done, you're right where you left off with the old one. You just have a better, larger, faster hard drive. But some of these things, like RAM, again, buy as much RAM as you can afford, buy as much processing speed as you can afford. Again, we've talked about this ad nauseum, 3 to 4 years. Now, if you're buying the latest, greatest, if you're spending $5,000 on your desktop or your laptop, you may get 5 or 6 years out of it if you maintain it properly. Okay? But the sweet spot price point for computers is usually somewhere close, but not quite at the very top of the echelon. And that's, you're basically going to, and if you're buying the one on the cover of a Walmart flyer, you might get a year out of it before you're going to be hating life. Fair warning. And again, printers, scanners, they're usually on the same type of life cycle that your computer hardware is on. You guys are awful quiet. Am I putting you to sleep? Can't afford to update my entire office. What should I do? Again, start small. What time do we go to here? 2:15? All right, I've got some time left. Develop a plan, 25% this year, 25% next. Before you know it, you'll have all updated equipment. You'll spread the cost out of over several years. Yes, sir.
Data on that old computer, you just dispose them or?
Okay, that's a very good question. He's asking if I replace the computer, what do I do with the data on the old hard drive, on the old computer? Well, first, the first thing I'll say is if you're buying a new computer, help us migrate to the old to new. Let us help you migrate old to new, okay? We'll help you decide whether you're buying the correct computer. But after that, after you've bought the computer, you take it home, plug it in, turn it on, get all of your Windows updates. Because oftentimes when you take the computer out of the box, there are anywhere from 20 to 100 different updates that need to be installed, depending on when that computer was manufactured. So install all the Windows updates, and then call us. It could take a couple hours, but we will help you migrate from the old computer to the new computer. And we'll get you up and running the way you're supposed to be on that new computer. As far as what to do with the old hard drive, if you want to dispose of it, anybody know what did I tell you guys last year? How do you dispose of a hard drive? What? Burn it up? Well, you can burn it up, but they're usually going to explode if you try and do that. Drill a hole in it. You can wipe it, you can erase it, you can format it. Data is data and it never disappears, okay? I had somebody in the last class say, I have a piece of software that wipes it 12 times. Is that good enough?
No.
Probably.
No.
But I wouldn't count on it, okay? And it's fun. Take a drill, put a drill, right? Remember I said it's like a record, right? So the center of the hard drive is the spindle. So go a little off center and drill a hole through it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's right. Right, but if I've got a hole drilled through it, then those things aren't spinning. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, sir. 1709. 1709. Sure.
2014, April the 22nd, turned both of my computers on, would not boot. Called, went out, bought the computer at minimum. They said yes. It was only 8 gigs of RAM, but I bought a 4 upgrade to 12.
Mm-hmm.
And once I got the computer itself running, I called them in 2 hours back to 2007 or 8. Everything was loaded back up. Scanners were working. Everything done, and I'm back doing taxes.
All right. Everybody hear that? He said in 2014, he went in the office one day, turned both computers on, and they were dead. Went and bought new ones, back to the office, called TaxSlayer, and in 2 hours, we had him back up and running where he was, all the way back to 07 or 06. Usually when we do a migration from you, we will migrate everything from 06 forward for you, if that's what you have. So we are more than happy to do it. Now, it could take 2 hours. Depending on how much data you have and how many years you have, it could take even longer. So you've got to, don't call us on a Friday at 4:30 and want us to do it right then. So don't call us at 2 in the morning and we won't answer the phone. Yes, sir. Yes. We need access. Well, yes and no. That's the best case scenario. The best case scenario is you call us and you have the old computer and you have the new computer, and we can touch both of them. Short of that, if you copy the TaxSlayer folder, the entire folder, which is usually C:\TaxSlayer, okay? The entire TaxSlayer folder, you put that on a thumb drive, external hard drive, something that we can access, and that'll be good enough for us. And that'll get you back to 06. Anybody been with us longer than that? Of course you. So prior to 06, we installed in the root directory. So that we're probably not going to migrate you from. Okay? We can give you instructions on how to do it. It's simple. It's just there are 7 or 8 different folders in the root directory of the hard drive for every year of TaxSlayer prior to 06. But we'll get you from 6 forward, we'll get migrated. So when we're done with you, you'll be sitting in the exact same spot you were on the new computer that you were on the old computer, as long as you have the data intact for us to access. Yes, sir?
If they get all my stuff, the backup.
That we have. Right.
Everything. I mean, I had, I did have an external hard drive with backup. Don't worry about it. We'll do it all the data.
Yep. We keep, now here's the other caveat to that. We only keep current plus 3 prior years, because that's all the IRS requires you to keep. Ever since North Carolina was hacked, the state of North Carolina was subject to a hack several years ago. And ever since that, our owners made the decision that we're not going to store any more data than we need to for our protection and for yours. So we keep current plus 3 prior. So once we release 17, we'll get rid of 13. Once we release 17 in a couple weeks, we will keep 16, 15, 14. And we'll purge 13 from our system. The IRS says you have to have current plus 3 prior. Banks often want you to keep 5 years. I don't know why they don't follow suit with the IRS, but I can't speak for them. But we keep current plus 3. So if you have further back, we'll be happy to migrate it back to 06 for you. Otherwise, we can provide you, and what we have is e-filed returns. We don't have amended and paper and all of that. Talk a little about internet connection speed. Again, if you're running a Ferrari of a computer on a Honda of an internet connection, you're not going to be happy with the results. Okay? Broadband now, the FCC considers broadband at least 25 Mbit download. I would recommend you getting 25 to 50, somewhere in there for your business at a minimum. I usually run about 100 at home. We recommend a minimum of 10. 10 is sufficient. It's not great, depending on the size of your office and your volume. If you're a 1 or 2 man shop, 10 Mbits is probably going to do you well, depending on what else you're doing with it too. And it also depends on what other software products you're running. If you're running an insurance business and that's all on, much of that is online these days, that may require you to have more bandwidth. But again, like anything, get the fastest, purchase as much bandwidth as you can afford. Get the fastest internet connection you can afford. Does everybody understand that every time you open the software, it calls home? How many knew that? Probably not a lot of you. Every time you open TaxSlayer, it calls home, connects to our servers, and gets a couple pieces of information. One, it makes sure that your EFIN is registered in our servers and you are a customer in good standing with us. The second thing it does is it looks to see if you're approved for a bank. God bless you. It looks to see if you're approved for a bank, and it determines which banks you're approved for and allows you to choose them in the software. Third thing it does is it pulls down tran and tech fees. If you have a increased transmission fee agreement with us, it gets that information. It gets information about your ancillary products that you're signed up to offer as well. AMP, Securely ID, which is coming this year. Every time you open the software, it calls home. It's not only when you get updates or when you transmit returns or when you get acts. Now, those are the most important times, I agree. But every time you open the software, it calls home. A rock-solid, fast internet connection is imperative to a tax office. All right, what can I do to help protect the data? I hope everybody in the room has antivirus software installed. It comes free with Windows now. Windows has free antivirus software. It's called Windows Defender. If you're a fan of Norton or McAfee, you're more than happy to purchase them and use them. They're excellent products. Some of them even come with more robust firewalls than Windows offers. But it's not necessary. Windows Defender is free. It comes with every version of Windows now. TaxSlayer at our corporate offices, we use the enterprise version of Windows Defender. Now, we don't recommend any one piece of software, any one piece of antivirus software, but I can tell you this, I use Windows Defender for my personal equipment, and we use the enterprise version of it at TaxSlayer. I generally don't buy things that I can get for free myself. I'm cheap that way, but you know, I leave the spending to my wife. She's good enough for both of us when it comes to that. So, all right, here's another thing that's critical: is put a password on your computer. If you don't have a password on your computer, you should put one on it today. The second thing you should do is lock your computer every time you step away from your desk. All right, what does every person have in their pocket these days? A camera. They have a cell phone which has a camera. Every person walking into your office has a camera in their pocket. If you walk away from your computer and leave a tax return up, it takes them 3 seconds. My kids are so fast. Every time I want to take a picture of something that's on the road or something moving or a squirrel running by, I'm old. I can never get my camera out, turn it on in time. I wind up the music's going, everything's going but the camera. But my kids, my 20 and teenagers and 20-year-olds, man, they are snapping pictures like that. Ooh, look, there's a hummingbird. Boom, they've got a picture of it. So, and I told you this yesterday, I'll tell you again, at TaxSlayer, we are required every time we step up. It doesn't matter whether I'm going 2 feet outside my office or on the next floor. If I leave my office, my computer gets locked. That is a hard and fast policy at TaxSlayer. We take security very seriously, and everybody knows that beginning last year, I think most of you have used the program for a few years now. Beginning in 2016, we required you to use Prepare Security, which means you can't open the software now without a username and a password. And I know some people didn't like that very much, but it's us trying to protect you as well, so you're welcome. But that was due to some IRS regulations as well. So, but we are serious about security, and we hope you are too, because the IRS is making the EROs more and more responsible for these things. We've all seen the increase in due diligence. We've all seen the increase in the 8867 and what they're adding to us and the responsibilities. It's cheap for the IRS to just throw some more responsibility on you guys, right? It doesn't cost them anything. Saves them money. They have to hire fewer people. They have to hire fewer investigators. We'll just make the EROs be the policemen. So we in the industry, and when I say we, I'm talking about TaxSlayer and our fellow competitors, we lobby the IRS on your behalf about these things all the time. And we're very successful at many of them. All right? And the ones we're successful about, you'll never hear about. Okay, the IRS throws proposals for regulations out all the time to the software industry, and we push back and we lobby and we fight on your behalf as much as we possibly can. Fortunately, we don't win every one of those battles. All right, so firewall and antivirus. Like I said, we don't endorse any particular product. But we're happy to talk to your technician. There are a few that don't work well with TaxSlayer. All right, anybody ever heard of Kaspersky? Kaspersky, it's been in the news. If you go buy a computer at Best Buy, they'll give you a free copy of Kaspersky antivirus. Anybody know where Kaspersky is based out of? Russia. Somebody said it. Kaspersky is based out of Russia. I sent my customers about 2 weeks ago an article that talked about how Kaspersky bowed to the pressures of the Russian government, starting sharing some of the information from its clients with the Russian government. Stay away from Kaspersky. Anybody in here use remote connection software to connect to their computers when they're not at home or not at work? Ever hear of TeamViewer? TeamViewer. Anybody use TeamViewer? You know where that's located? The Ukraine. Their servers are all in the Ukraine. I would be wary of that as well. There are other, not free, but there are other connection mechanisms that will do everything TeamViewer can that are much more secure. LogMeIn is what we use at TaxSlayer. It's not free, but it's an outstanding product, and it's not prohibitively expensive. The GoToMeeting, GoTo products are also very good. And there's a number of free ones out there. I can't speak for all of them, but we use LogMeIn at TaxSlayer. We're very happy with it. You can get a personal license for that for not maybe less than $100 a year. Ransomware. Talked a little bit about this yesterday. I hope everybody understands what ransomware is. Okay, ransomware is encryption of your entire hard drive. This is a technical definition, form of malware in which the data on a victim's computer is locked, typically by encryption, and then they demand payment for the encryption key. The encryption key is like the password to unencrypt the data. It's the cipher that's used to read the data and understand what the data says. And without the access key or without the encryption key, if you are the subject of ransomware, your data is gone forever. Okay? It's growing. It's becoming an epidemic in the country. If you haven't been attacked, somebody hasn't tried to attack you with ransomware yet, they will soon. All right? The biggest combat tool we have against ransomware is a good, consistent backup of your software. If for some reason you're the victim of ransomware, and the last couple years we have seen it time and time and time and time again, and it breaks our heart every phone call we get, something's wrong with my computer, and we connect and we can, this is ransomware. It's sad when you don't have the backup, because you're either going to pay or you're going to lose it forever. If you have the backup, you can thumb your nose at the hackers, and at worst, you're going to have to buy a new hard drive. I can't stress backups enough as a combat tool to ransomware. Without it, your choices are to pay or lose everything. And they'll give you a deadline. If you miss the deadline, sometimes they'll double the fee. Remember, we're not dealing with reputable people here, so paying the ransom is no guarantee that they're actually going to give you the key. They're actually going to release your data. And if you do pay the ransom and they do give you the key and you do get access to your data, you're more likely to be hit again down the road because they know you're a willing target. They know you're an easy target. They know you pay. They know you'll pay. So how else can we combat this? Best practices. If we are diligent about what we use our computers for and how we use them, that also goes a long way to keep hackers and keep, what did he call them yesterday? Fraudsters. The gentleman from the IRS. I love that term. I think I'm going to steal that. Keep the fraudsters out of your computer. Okay? Your kids, your grandkids shouldn't be watching YouTube videos or Netflix or on Facebook on your work computers. Your office computer is your livelihood. It should be strictly for your office. I work at home a lot, especially during tax season. I have an office at home. The computers I use for work, even in my house, are used only for work. They're not commingled with the computers that I surf the internet or the computer my wife comes, Well, my wife's not allowed to touch my computers, but that's me. I'm a tech geek, so I'm a little anal about that stuff. But your work, the point is your work computer is your work computer. Okay, I had one in the last class said, so I have a niece or nephew that often comes to my office after school and they've got to do their book report or their homework. What should I do? Well, you know what? That $200 laptop on the cover of Walmart's Black Friday flyer, get one of those and let your niece do their homework and do her book report on that computer. Because if that computer gets infected, you can toss it and go get another $200 computer and you're out $200. Okay? The other thing is don't connect it to your network. Right? If you connect it to your network, that computer gets infected. Depending on the infection, it can spread across your network to the rest of your computers. All right? So we've all heard the term, you're only as strong as your weakest, chain's only as strong as its weakest link, right? Same thing with your network. Okay? Another person today asked me, should I let my customers connect to my Wi-Fi in my office? Wow. No, thank you. Most of our networks have the ability to, if not all of them, have the ability to create a guest network. And I would urge you, if you're going to have other people, including your children and your grandchildren, your nieces and nephews, your employees' children. Oh, I had to bring my son to work. Don't let your employee put her son on a computer and go YouTube shopping, right? Surfing YouTube, watching Netflix, Facebook. You're just opening yourself to attack that way. Okay? Create the guest network. If you want your customers to be able to connect to Wi-Fi, have them connect to the guest network and change that password frequently. Any questions about that? All right. All right. Our data is encrypted. Our tax returns, our PDFs that we generate, we encrypt them all. So if somebody comes into your office and gets your data, somebody steals your computer without the password, without access to the software, they won't be able to get access to the tax returns. Again, Prepare Security. Beginning last year, we required you to use Prepare Security. This means that nobody can access the software without a password now. Safeguarding data. What time are we going till this class? 2:15? All right, we're about out of time. Anybody have questions? Publication 46 describes how it's your responsibility to safeguard the data of your clients. Maintain a list of locations, assess the risk, limit taxpayer data, access to taxpayer data. You can do that through Prepare Security. Create an information security plan. Put it in writing. Review it periodically. Update it when necessary. The last thing I want to talk about before I let you go is MFA, or multi-factor authentication. I think Nathan and I both covered this yesterday in the general session, but I think it's important enough to go over again. Again, here's a technical definition for multi-factor authentication, security system that requires more than one method of authentication. Basically, it's saying we want to make sure you are who you say you are. Okay? We have already instituted MFA through my account. How many have gone through the MFA process in my account already? All right, good number of you, good number of you. The rest of you, when you go home tomorrow, log into your My Account and look at it, because it's something you're going to want to be prepared for, and it's something you're going to want to have set up prior to tax season, so it doesn't slow you down then. Those of you who haven't yet, when you log in to your My Account, you'll find this screen. It says paragraph here says we have to update your information, your username. If your username is not currently 6 digits long or longer, we will make you change it to be at least 6 digits, 6 characters or longer. Okay? We ask that you enter your cell phone and email address, and I know that most of you have this information in your My Account already. Why are we asking for it again? We debated this back and forth, and we decided to ask you to enter it again because this is the best chance for us to get accurate information from you because it's so important. Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
Not the same as in my account, so do I have to contact y'all and let y'all know?
You can update your phone number in my account yourself.
Oh, I can't.
You can. Yes, ma'am. But when you log in here, it's going to ask you for your cell phone number. Give us your current cell phone number, regardless of what you have saved in my account. Once you get into my account, you can update it in my account. But here, when you get to this screen, put your current cell phone number in there for MFA. Because what's going to happen is, every time you kick off MFA, you're going to get either an email or a text. So the next question is going to be, what kicks off MFA? Well, we're going to MFA you every 15 days, every time you use a new web browser, every time you access from a new IP address. Because if that hacker in Bulgaria tries to access your My account, we're going to say, hey, this is not Harry's computer. Let's MFA him and make sure he is who he says he is. Okay? New browser, new computer, X number of days. The STIGs actually state, and eventually we will have to conform to this, that if you haven't accessed it in the last 24 hours, that you'll get MFA'd the next time you access it. So MFA is coming to all TaxSlayer products and services eventually. Today, this year, My account, ProWeb. So when you get MFA'd, you'll get this screen. You'll choose email or text, send the code, enter the code here, and you're in. And it's as simple as that. It works well. We've thoroughly tested it. We've all gone through it. It's been out for a few weeks now. And it's literally a 20-second inconvenience on the way in. But the amount of security that MFA provides you from people accessing your accounts and your data is immense. So unfortunately, security is the wave of the future. Yes, ma'am.
If I choose a text message,
Yes.
what's the there with your method to do? And then next time I need to verify who I am and my cell phone is lost.
Is lost?
Well, I'm just building a scenario.
Okay.
Will you then try with the other alternative, with an email?
Yes. You choose this every time you get MFA. Every time. And the code that gets sent only lasts for a certain period of time. That number escapes me right now, but it's a matter of minutes. It's not days. So if I MFA with text message today, nothing's stopping me from doing it with email tomorrow. Folks, I think we're out of time. You've been terrific. Thank you very much.